Everyone says Australia's safe, but wait until you hear what's really happening behind the sunny beaches and cuddly koalas. The first time I landed in Sydney, it felt like I'd stepped into a travel commercial. Sunshine, friendly accents, baristas who actually smiled. I let my guard down almost instantly. After all, isn't this place supposed to be one of the safest countries on Earth? That illusion didn't last long. 3 nights in, I was walking through a nightlife district around 1:30 a.m. People were shouting, one guy smashed a glass on the sidewalk, and a cop walked past like it was just another Tuesday. I wasn't in danger exactly, but the vibe, definitely off. It felt like I'd missed a fine print warning on the brochure. That's when I started wondering, is this country's reputation actually deserved? Or have we all been sold a postcard fantasy? Let's just say, Australia's biggest threats aren't what you think. When people talk about safety, they usually mean not getting mugged. But there's more to the story, and Australia's stats are surprisingly murky when you dig deeper. Take Melbourne, for example, known for its art, culture, and world-class coffee. But here's a stat you probably haven't heard. Car theft rates in Melbourne are higher than in London, not just by a little, by enough to raise eyebrows. In fact, Victoria consistently ranks high in property-related crime across all of Australia. Sydney, the country's showpiece? Its central nightlife district has been under scrutiny for years due to rising assault cases, especially after dark. There's even a term for it, king hit, a brutal, unexpected punch often leading to serious injury. And while the US or UK might grab headlines for violence, Australia's per capita assault rates in certain states rival or exceed theirs. Shocking, right? In Queensland, there was a 30% rise in youth crime over a recent 3-year period. We're talking home invasions, armed robberies, vehicle theft. Not exactly the shrimp on the Barbie vibe you expected. So why does Australia still feel so safe? Because most of these incidents don't happen where the tourists go, or at least not during the hours they're walking around with cameras. And when they do, they're often framed as outliers, not patterns. But here's the twist. Perception doesn't always match reality. And that's just the cities. Wait until we talk about the creatures lurking beyond them. Ah yes, the classic Australia fear checklist. Deadly spiders in your shoes, snakes in your bed, sharks in every wave, crocodiles lurking just behind the surf. It's like the entire continent is trying to kill you. Or so the memes would have you believe. Let's clear this up. Yes, Australia is home to some of the world's most venomous animals. But when it comes to actual danger, the numbers tell a different story. Take spiders, for example. Despite the terrifying headlines, there hasn't been a single death from a spider bite in Australia since 1979. That's right, 0 in over 40 years. Snakes? They're definitely more risky. But again, snakebite deaths average just 1-2 per year, fewer than lightning strikes. And sharks? Between 2010 and 2020, the global average for fatal shark attacks in Australia was around 1.4 per year. You're far more likely to drown at the beach than be bitten by a shark. So what is actually dangerous? Kangaroos. More specifically, kangaroos and cars. Over 90% of wildlife-related deaths in Australia come from vehicle collisions with animals, not attacks. A tourist driving at dusk in the outback is at far more risk of hitting a wombat than being mauled by a spider. Quick stat drop. In 2022, over 20,000 kangaroo car collisions were reported in New South Wales alone. Most occurred at dawn or dusk, when visibility is low and animals are most active. Now about that spider in the toilet. Yes, it happens. And yes, it's horrifying, but even then, most common spiders found in homes aren't aggressive, and they're more scared of you than you are of them, which honestly doesn't help when you're sitting down. So where does this fear come from? Simple. It's the psychological threat. The idea that you're safe, until something small, quiet, and venomous decides otherwise. It's not the danger that's real. It's the uncertainty that sells the fear. But even if you dodge the crocs and the crime, there's still one danger most travelers completely ignore. If you're picturing danger in Australia as something lurking in the bush, you're looking in the wrong direction. The real trouble? It's lit by neon signs and fueled by cheap beer. Let's talk about what actually happens in Australia's cities once the sun goes down. In Sydney, the once infamous King's Cross district used to be so out of control it sparked national debate, and a series of intense lockout laws aimed at curbing late-night violence. Why? Because the assaults, injuries, and alcohol-fueled chaos got that bad. Even after reforms, spots like George Street, Fortitude Valley in Brisbane, and Chapel Street in Melbourne all have the same warning signs: crowded clubs, little police visibility, and rising reports of harassment, theft, and street fights. especially between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. And tourists? They're often the easiest targets. You don't know the layout. You don't know which back alley not to take. You don't know when someone's following you until it's too late. You think you're in a safe country, so you act like nothing bad can happen. And that false confidence? It's one of the riskiest things you can pack. Petty theft is big in tourist hotspots, especially where travelers get distracted by markets, nightlife, or that perfect Insta shot. Bag snatching, phone theft, or even simple scams, like overcharging at bars, are more common than you'd expect. Drink spiking, though harder to track, has quietly surged in several cities. Police receive hundreds of reports annually, yet most cases go unreported out of shame or confusion. And in Australia, your own behavior can get you in trouble faster than you think. And one law in Australia could land you in serious trouble, without even knowing it. You thought the danger was a snake. Turns out, it was the sign you didn't read. Australia has some of the most random, surprising, and, let's be honest, downright confusing public safety laws for visitors. Break one, and suddenly that laid-back Aussie vibe turns very official. Let's start simple. Drinking in public? Illegal in many areas. That casual beer on the beach at sunset could cost you hundreds in fines, especially in Sydney or Melbourne. And no, they won't always post signs to warn you. Vaping or smoking in the wrong park. You could be fined, even if no one else is around. Jaywalking? Not just frowned upon. It's a $75 fine in most cities. Yes, for crossing the street too early or not at the signal. Public swearing or rowdy behavior? That's considered offensive conduct in certain states. And yes, it can get you detained. Tourist fined after vaping in a national park. No signs, no warnings, just a fine, and a lesson in ignorance isn't an excuse. And in a country where you assume everything works like back home, ignorance can be expensive or even criminal. Okay, so you've made it this far. You know the Crocs aren't your biggest problem. You know the cities can get sketchy. You know that even crossing the street can get you fined. Now here's what you need to do to survive and actually enjoy the ride. Your must-have Australia checklist. 1. Travel insurance? Non-negotiable. From jellyfish stings to stolen phones, you don't want to pay out of pocket in Aussie dollars. 2. Google local laws before you arrive. Not when you're already holding a beer on a beach. 3. Don't feed the kangaroos. No matter how chill they look, they can get aggressive. Think uppercut to the chest aggressive. 4. Avoid central nightlife districts after 1 a.m. Or at least don't go alone. Groups equal sign safer. 5. Don't swim outside the flags. Australia's beaches are no joke. Rip currents kill more tourists than sharks ever will. 6. Know your emergency numbers. Australia doesn't use 911. It's 000. 7. Respect signs in the bush. 8. Learn the word bogan. Bonus tip. In the outback, gas stations can be 200 kilometers apart. If your tank's half full, it's actually half empty. Don't wait. Because in Australia, getting it wrong doesn't always look like danger. Sometimes it looks like a $400 fine and a flight home with regrets. So, is Australia really safe? The truth behind the postcard. So, here we are. We've talked about the Crocs, the clubs, the creepy crawlies, and the curious laws. We've seen how safety in Australia isn't fake, but it sure isn't simple either. So let's answer the big one. Is Australia really that safe? Yes, but only if you know what you're doing. If you're the kind of traveler who assumes that smiles, beaches, and English-speaking locals mean no worries, you could absolutely find yourself in trouble. But if you're aware, respectful, and a little more prepared than the average backpacker with a GoPro, then Australia can be one of the most breathtaking, unforgettable, and yes, safe places you'll ever visit. Because this country isn't Disneyland. It's not a curated experience. It's real, beautiful, wild, and unpredictable. And that's what makes it an adventure, not a trap. It's not about being scared. It's about being smart and seeing past the postcard. If you're planning a trip to Australia, or just love uncovering the truth about places people think they know, hit that like button, smash subscribe, and check out my next video. Australia had it all and still blew everything. 2025 collapse. Trust me, it's even weirder than this one.